Hello, everybody, and welcome to Firefly Chats, the show where we talk all things The Last of Us. I am your host, James T. Keegan, and today we are breaking down episode 7 of HBO's The Last of Us. But I can't do it alone, so let me get my wonderful panel of guests on for the evening. First up, as usual, we have the Ginger Geordie Geek himself, Peter.
Heyo!
Heyo, how's it going?
Not so bad, mate. Not so bad. Looking forward to this. Another cracking episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I can't believe we're at episode 7 already, to be honest.
Just two left.
By.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it? How quick it went. It'll be sad when it's done. But
Yeah.
Grand. Okay. Next up, we have back from sunny Hawaii. Give a big aloha to Past Point Comics.
Aloha, the Last of Us familia. What's going on, guys?
How's it going, man? Have a nice trip. All good. Next up, we have GP Venom. How's it going, man?
Hey, no. Hello.
How are we?
All good here. Yeah.
Oh, good. Happy to
Let
have
me
you
get
back,
going.
man. Awesome. And the last of us, but not the least of us, we have Chris from Cold Collects. How's it going, man?
Hello. Very good.
How's things?
Yourself?
Yeah, all good. Chris, we missed you the last couple of episodes. Just before we get into this one, we had the Henry and Sam kind of storyline and Tommy then last episode. What did you think of those ones?
You don't need to ask me anymore, mate. I loved him. I think they're just getting better and better every week. I don't want it to end. I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, like I said, it'd be sad when it's done, but it's nice to get to talk about it every week anyway. Worth the effort, I would say. So
Efron's intro every week, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So usually we have the Last of Us news. There's not really been much in the last week, but I think I'll take this opportunity to just explain the kind of origins of this particular episode. So this is the episode's title Left Behind, as is the DLC kind of mini game that this is based on. Everything in this episode is purely from this. So it released a few months after the original game, and it's sort of an interquel taking place after Joel is injured. And it kind of follows, there's kind of a dual storyline in it where Ellie is kind of out looking for medicine and supplies for Joel, and that's where the kind of combat sequences come in. And then you have the kind of fun stuff in the mall with Riley. So this episode kind of mostly focuses on the Riley stuff, which I think is probably a good thing. But it's mad how, like, I think this is a crucial element of particularly Ellie's character, and like for a few months it wasn't even a thing in the Last of Us universe, you know.
Yeah.
Chris, I know you played The Last of Us. I assume you played Left Behind as well, have you?
No, I didn't play it. I was kind of wondering where they got the material from, because I'd not played the DLC.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, when I read about it, it kind of made a bit more sense. But it was good. I enjoyed the backstory element. I was expecting more with, like you mentioned, with Ellie going out and things and taking care of Joel. I was expecting more of that. Yeah. Quite a good surprise that it was just more Ellie's backstory.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the Riley stuff is the kind of highlight of that DLC. So I think it's a good thing that they just focus squarely on that. So, episode 7. We'll go one by one, just give our kind of overall thoughts before we go scene for scene. So, we'll start with Efren. What did you think of episode 7?
I like this episode, but I wanted more action, you know, and it wasn't only, you're going to talk about it, but I know they have to tell the backstories of these characters, and I'm glad they did. But at the same time, I just wish there was a little bit more action going on. So I knew something was coming. And when it did, it was great. But, you know, and like I said, these episodes, you know, for us who haven't even seen the video game or anything, they have to talk about these characters and their past so we know more about them, so we, you know, care about them more. But I hope the last 2 episodes are just kick-ass, you know.
There's going to be plenty of action to come. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think that is... I personally don't mind it myself, because I think the characters are really what I love about The Last of Us. But like the last episode was also kind of a talky one, so I think that's fair enough. Peter, episode 7.
Absolutely, 100% agree with Efren. I don't want to sound negative, because I love the series. I I really do love this series. I enjoyed it. It was a nice character story, like you say, but I wanted more excitement, more action. It was a bit like the episode we talked about a few weeks back. It was a lovely love story, I think. Is that what I come to this show necessarily for? I don't know. It gets us invested in the characters, but I wanted a bit more, and I kind of wanted to see the ending a bit different. I was wanting, and I don't know. You talked about it being the DLC and whatnot. I'm assuming when she said in the previous episode that it's not the first time she shot someone, that she kills that girl. So I don't know if we'll see that in another episode or something in the future.
So we don't actually see that in the downloadable content.
But is that what it's implying? That she
I think so. Back when she said that in that episode, that's I was assuming she was referring to this.
I'm going to start the show off with something controversial, James.
Okay.
And Ben, I don't know if Ben's in the chat yet, so I'll say it before he gets here. I sat and watched the first episode of Mandalorian today.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has seen it yet.
No.
Good episode, great fun, all the rest of it. But it really does show the quality of the writing in this program, and it's night and day. So you watch this, and it's believable. It's characters that you get involved with. It feels like a conversation. Mandalorian felt like a forced script at times, and I know people will say, "Oh my god, it's Star Wars! It's meant to be an attackers," but it really did. And watching this before it made this feel leaps and bounds ahead of Star Wars. Yeah. Marvelous.
Yes. Ben comes in. How dare you?
Shit. Try to squeeze it in before he got. Yeah.
I think we were talking in the group chat a little bit earlier about it, and I did say, like, aside from Andor, kind of hokey dialogue is sort of an element of Star Wars. But it is interesting that we have two Pedro Pascal led shows about him kind of being a father figure to this person that starts out as cargo, as a mercenary. I think that's kind of funny. But there's similarities, but they're also wildly different shows. Chris, episode 7.
Yeah, sort of. I do kind of agree again with Pete and Efron. It was a kind of slow change of pace. But like I mentioned, I had not played the DLC, so when Joe got stabbed in the last episode, I kind of thought it was going to be Ellie roaming around that area with the house and taking care of him, and maybe a bit of backstory and flashbacks and stuff. But kind of went full on backstory, which I didn't mind. It was a change of pace, and I think I kind of expected more.
Yeah,
kind of from the game, I expected a bit more Ellie-driven story, but I didn't expect it to be kind of that far back. But I enjoyed it. I like the fact that obviously we learned about her immunity and things in this episode, and the relationship, I guess. Do you know what I mean, with Ellie? But it was good. Again, it wasn't a bad episode. A bit slow pace for this point, I think, though, in the series. I want a bit more action now, I think.
Yeah, I think I get that, because, like I said, this is a DLC thing. So if you play Last of Us start to finish, this isn't there. So I would get if some people feel like it's maybe kind of a side story in a place that doesn't suit it. I love that it's here, and I've actually always wanted, like, when they did the remake, I thought it was kind of a missed opportunity not to let you like select an option to put this in with the main game, so you're playing the whole thing through. And when I play The Last of Us now, I tend to stop when Joel gets injured and then jump over and play this and then come back to it just to get kind of that full thing.
It's really bad. It's just a change that I wasn't expecting, if that makes sense. It wasn't bad. It was still a good episode, and like I said, for characters pushing them forward and things, I think it gave a lot more substance to Ellie.
Yeah, it must have also been nice to someone who, like, you probably weren't expecting much that you were not familiar with in this.
So it was good because I'd not seen it before and I wasn't expecting nothing. So I did enjoy that aspect of it.
All right, that's fair enough. And Pete?
Yeah, just to go on what Pete and Efren says about the episode, I would go ahead and treat this one as the calm before the storm. So you get a really nice story before things take a turn, and that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, it's a brilliant episode. I was really intrigued how they were going to play it out with the flashbacks. Obviously, because you got Ellie doing stuff in the game, and then keeps flashing back to this bit of them all. But yeah, it was really good. It was really well done. Yeah.
I would add as well, and I'm sure you'll come onto it, James, in terms of the acting and all the rest of it. The relationship for me was utterly believable. Every
Yeah.
kind of glance,
Oh.
and do you know what I mean? You could
Absolutely.
see, it was telegraphed because you could see what was coming or how she felt, but it was just so beautifully done. It was,
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I would probably put this in my top 3 episodes. Like I would probably, alongside the Henry and Sam stuff and the Bill and Frank stuff. I think this is Bella Ramsey's best performance in the show so far, and probably will be
Agreed.
until for the rest of it as well. She's really come into her own in this episode, particularly. We see kind of a side of Ellie that we haven't yet. Ellie kind of in a happier place, and she sold that perfectly. I think some have said that like some of her kind of quips and stuff can kind of not land quite as well as they should do, and I think every line out of her in this one is a banger, and really made me fall in love with the character all over again. So I think this is stellar and like as good of an adaptation of this particular story as you could get. Yeah, so that's me. So we'll get on to as we usually do, scene for scene. So we'll go with the opening. Are you happy? Well, for now anyway. Joel's not dead.
I knew he wasn't going to die.
Yeah, shouldn't have been that confident. You should this is the type of story where they could easily do that. And keep in mind how close we are to the ending.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure they were even going to show this, to be honest. I thought maybe, and I think I was listening to the official Last of Us podcast, and Neil Druckmann and Craig Mason were on that. And they were talking about how they weren't actually even going to have this section in it at all.
I'm glad they did. I'm glad they kept it in.
Yeah, I think so, and
Yeah.
I think particularly
if they hadn't, you would have had a lot of non-gaming people quite irritated because it ended on such a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And to just go straight to a flashback, I think you would have had people annoyed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was nice that they kind of introduced it at the start.
Yeah, and I think well, obviously we'll get to the ending, but it ties it all in together quite well, I think, as well. But yeah, just the way like Joel is kind of telling her to leave and everything, it's like heartbreaking, and she's like so desperate to stay, and very kind of similar. The game opens in this way as well. But like Ellie in the game leaves to go find supplies, whereas in this one it's solely in the house. And you see like a single tear go down Joel's eye there, and I think he's just like, it's out of concern that like Ellie might not survive without him, and I thought that was kind of heartbreaking. And Ellie, it seems initially, is planning on leaving as well. But yeah, like again, we've been on and on about how great these performances are and how much they can say with not even saying words.
Yeah.
I think every screenshot you get, is an example of that. So we flash back to this kind of military school. Now, we don't really see much of this in Left Behind, but there's a bit of it in the comic book, in the American Dreams. That kind of focuses on Riley and Ellie during the time in the military academy. But we see this absolute bitch, Bethany. And one thing I really loved about this episode was the kind of the normalcy of some of it, where like this is kind of a scene you would get in a normal high school kind of TV show, and the bully coming and everything. And there's a few other examples of that. But yeah, the way she's like, "You don't fight, your friend fights." Ellie just socks her, and like I think I didn't get this clip of it, but there's like this expression on Bethany's face before she does it as well, like oh shit. That was great. Did this guy chuckle at any of us?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It felt very, like you say, very high school drama, very normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could almost forget what was going on outside the walls, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the next scene, like this is a scene we've seen in 100 kind of movies and shows, the principal's office sort of scene of the girl in trouble and everything. But even like these little details, like his kind of picture of his wife and kids, like gave him a little bit of a backstory without really saying much. I thought that was really, really nice. Yeah, just like they're talking about like, oh, throw me in the hole and everything, like, so obviously this is not a normal situation to be in, but it's it's got shades of that. So we get this kind of two paths ahead of you thing, and that's like there's a bit of a tie into that in the end as well. But it's interesting what he's kind of saying to her, like it's almost a bit corrupt, where he's like, we eat really well and we sleep in warm beds and we're warm in the winter and cool in the summer, and shows this like it seems like a nice guy, but there's like this corruption there. Did any kind of feel that as well?
I didn't feel corruption. What I felt was exactly what the other characters have been saying about this kind of military oppression government setup, almost, that basically, you know, if you play the line and you do what we say and you toe the line, as it were, you get treated well. If you don't, you're on the streets. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, I mean, we get this line from him where he says, like, if it wasn't for us, they'd all be killing and starving. And I don't know if it's necessarily true, because we saw in the last episode, Jackson, where it's a democratically led kind of.
I would say, yeah, but through this episode, you do say that Ellie has taken on quite a bit of the doctrine that Fedra is feeding her.
100%. Like this is a kind of impactful speech that he gives her, and it's sort of an element not really in the games at all. Like Ellie being a bit pro Fedra in it, but like it's nice that there's kind of, we've just seen so much horrible Fedra things, like they're executing people, and like you hear about how bad it was in Kansas. To see like a kind of the flip side of that, the kind of good that they can do as well. I thought it was really interesting, you know.
I think because she's young and the other girls are young too, they're almost like brainwashed into thinking that's the right way and you know, the only way. But I noticed there were no boys in the gym at all. They were just girls. You know,
I think they're segregated. I think. Yeah. Go back and check. I assume you're. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think I would say they're probably segregated. Just there's no going on. You know. Just Easter egg galore here. So you see the, no pun intended, like volume 1 that she has kind of before Riley gives her the second copy. And again, we see Savage Starlights. This is the comic book series that she's kind of talked about a few times before. Just out of interest, because you guys are kind of, I would say, more hardcore comic book fans than I am. What do you think of like the art style? Because we've never seen the inside of this book before.
I was about to ask, who's the artist? You know,
I'm not sure. It looks like it's a bit more cartoony than the Last of Us comic, so I was thinking maybe it was Faith Erin Hicks who's the artist on that, but I couldn't confirm that.
Yeah,
looks good.
Do you think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd read it.
Yeah, I'm dying to get a copy of this. I really hope they do a real series at some point. You see the kind of bedroom, the empty, like Riley's empty bed in the corner, and then the Mortal Kombat poster. So we've had Mortal Kombat referenced in episode 3, I think, and she talks about how she played it and like Melina's kind of fatality and everything. Yeah. So, and we get a kind of payoff to that later as well. So Riley comes in and has this like cover her mouth moment, and Ali pulls the knife on her, and I really love the kind of, I thought that was going to work thing. And I think everybody's kind of made a joke that, you know, didn't quite work. So I thought that was really relatable. What are your kind of thoughts just on Riley as a character? So this is Storm Reed. So you might recognize from the Suicide Squad. She's Bloodsport's daughter in that.
Right.
Okay. She's in the Invisible Man as well. She's really great in that. And she's in this kind of thriller movie called Never Let Go. That was the first thing I saw her in. She's phenomenal in that as well. So thoughts on just Riley as a character in this kind of performance, Peter?
Loved that. Thought she was great. Very believable. And again, a bit like Ephraim was saying earlier about how Ellie's been almost brainwashed. It's almost, I don't want to say Hitler Youth. It's almost like that kind of get them in young and brainwash them into the kind of the narrative that you want. I felt she'd been brainwashed almost the opposite side. So I felt like the Fireflies had grabbed her and almost got her believing their narrative as well. It shows you how easily it can be done, I suppose. But in terms of, you know, the performance, I loved her. I thought she was really, really good. Again, very tender. And I loved the fact that she'd gotten all that effort to kind of impress her girlfriend by the end of it. Bit of a sad end to it all.
Well, that's a running theme in the show, Peter. I think,
very nice, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Ephraim, you're a fan of Riley?
This is the first time I've seen her, but then I looked her up, and she was also in The Invisible Man. They said, I didn't see the movie,
it's an amazing film.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that film, but I just wanted to look up her history. I just think it's interesting that there's actors and actresses that are so good that are not well known compared to movie stars, which everybody always talks about them. You know, these kind of actors and actresses to me are just really on spot. You know, like I said, they're not. I didn't know who she was until this is the first time I ever seen her, and I'm just like, the way they get people to, you know, to be on their TV shows or movies, you know, that are not well known. I think it's, you know, really well done. You know, choosing these these people to be on the shows.
And these are going to be, let's be honest, because of the popularity of this show, these are going to be career forming performances, aren't they?
100%.
You get it right in this show,
Yeah.
I think you're going to be set for a long, long time.
Yeah, definitely. GP, what are your kind of thoughts on the translation of this character from what we see?
Yeah, I thought they did it really well. The actress did an amazing job. The relationship she has with Ellie, as we'll see further along, just they play off each other so well. I really like that. Yeah, so yeah, amazing job.
Yeah, she has such a charisma to her and a charm, and she's sort of like,
She
I think
carries
everybody can
herself
relate.
well.
Yeah, and everyone can kind of relate to that friend who's a bit cooler than you and a bit tougher than you and a bit braver than you. You know, I think
Not me,
everybody
yous maybe, not me.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought perfect casting. Chris,
Yeah.
any kind of thoughts on Riley? Since this is your first introduction to her.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I loved her. I thought she's one of the standouts of the show so far. She's definitely up there in the kind of top 4 or 5 actresses that I've seen on this show so far. She just immediately kind of grabbed your attention. No messing about with her, is that? Just straight in. You kind of understand, I think, where she's coming from with why she's gone to Fireflies and things. She just portrays everything really well. Really good actress.
Yeah, definitely. So here's a little just comparison for the game. She kind of, instead of grabbing her mouth, she does an infected kind of impression. It scares the shit out of Ellie. It's really funny. But yeah, she mentions that she's been gone for a while. She kind of abandoned Ellie feels, and she went out to join the Fireflies. But she says I'll just come with me and we'll have a cool night. Yeah, and again, kind of honing in on that point, there's a few kind of examples of this throughout it, but the political kind of aspect of this, are the Fireflies and Fedra better? And Ellie's brainwashing apparently here, where she calls them anarchists, and Riley says freedom fighters. It's quite kind of interesting take. So we see this they find this dead guy in the hallway, and they find the bottle of booze. So a point that I heard somebody mention was that this is in the Boston QZ. So Joel probably sold him that bag of pills.
Yeah.
Something I kind of hadn't considered, but I was like,
didn't get his bag back.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, because it was the plastic bag, wasn't it? So I thought,
that's a funny little kind of a little connection there.
But it's a bit of a throwback to last episode, and all after Joel lets have a drink of his whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. She says disgusting.
Yeah,
She's
she
like,
says, it's still disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pulled kind of straight from the game, where they find this bottle of booze and they start drinking it. Again, Ellie kind of obsessed with. She has this obsession with firearms, and you mentioned, Peter, the kind of natural quality of the dialogue here. This was one that kind of really stood out to me. Is this oh no, my head's down because I'm a fucking firefly? I thought she just sold that really well. And just give me the gun. That's kind of how you talk to people when you're driving back and forth with them. I thought that was great.
Very natural, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And this part as well, you dating some Firefly guy, and she's I feel like she's prodding a little bit here as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. In retrospect, so Riley mentions Marlene. So we met Marlene in episode 1. In the game, it's a little bit different. Ellie and not in the game, sorry, in the comic book, you see Ellie and Riley meeting Marlene, and so that's kind of, I think, where Riley kind of starts to connect with her. So curious if they took a different route with it. Peter, this joke must have stung a little bit.
What's that?
What
do you mean by that? Explain yourself, Keegan. What do you mean? Yeah. Are you implying something there?
Well, because she's saying if you're 40, you're old.
Oh, nice.
Peter, he's trying to make it personal here, man. I think
so. I think so. And I think, if you look at the screen, James, I'm not sure about Chris, but probably everybody below me is also scowling at you right now.
Just a little bit, yeah.
I'm only 37, Pete. I'm still young.
Oh, you're still young. You're just you're just bad,
look old with grey hair.
But again, we have the kind of the political kind of back and forth fashion stick bags that she says and everything. And Ellie's kind of standing up for Fedra. And I do have a slide for the bomb making thing later on, but we've seen the kind of terrorist attacks that Fireflies commit, it nearly kills Tess in the first episode and everything. So she's like, oh, not when civilians are around, and Ellie knows that's bullshit, and we do as well. Yeah, the kind of grayness of it all, I think, is a really interesting element that they've added that isn't really present in the games. So they get to this door, and again, another kind of fun friend thing. It's just like, just go through the door and take a ride. It's like, no, that was good. But we get this absolutely stunning, like, this is one of the nicest shots I've ever probably seen in something of the whole mall lighting up.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, in terms of visuals. This is actually a visual effect. That's not practical. I thought maybe it was,
really?
it was practical. Yeah, they had to CG. This apparently was a nightmare because this mall is only one story, and it's like an abandoned one in Canada that was being demolished. So they had to like put a blue screen everywhere and everything. But like, I mentioned before, like one particular shot early on that I didn't think was convincing, but this I would have sworn to God was real. So I think that's
I just assumed it was an abandoned mall somewhere. Yeah. I didn't think CGI at all.
Insanely impressive, I think. And because in the game it's a little less kind of dramatic, like they open the door and they see the lights, and the carousel that's actually introduced at the beginning here. Another kind of fun, the escalator bit. I really love this one.
Enjoyed it,
yeah, it was fun forwards and backwards. Pulled from the game as well. So it's just, you just walk on the escalator, and Ellie's like, this is so cool, It's funny. The first kind of, I think, proper little bit of a indication of a spark here. Did any of you pick up, like, at what point did you pick up on that there was a kind of a romantic vibe to this kind of pairing here?
I knew, immediately I knew, but like,
pretty much straight away.
Yeah. Everybody, all right, that's fair.
You could see the way she was looking at her, pretty much from the bedroom scene. Do you know what I mean? It was, she was very doe-eyed.
Yeah, because there's sort of there's a couple of teases throughout the show. Like anytime Riley's mentioned, she's kind of like scowls, like, don't bring that up. But there's one particular line, I think, in the first or second episode where Tess goes, "Do you have a boyfriend?" She's like, "No." So that, like, I was curious when I guess we're gonna pick that up, and I kind of slip by everyone. Great Easter egg, I think, here. So Dawn of the Wolf is sort of one of them fictional movies that you see the posters for in the game. It's sort of a riff on Twilight, I think. You see the poster actually in the game. I think you also see it in Sarah's room. So she's like a fan, and she has all the books on the shelf. So it's just like a nice little on there. You just copy and pasted it as well. Like, it didn't need to change that. This, I think, it's unfortunate that this kind of rings true here, doesn't it? That, if there was looting in an apocalypse, people would probably grab all the Nikes and everything instead of soap.
Yeah, I didn't know they had the body shop in the States.
Neither did I, actually.
I enjoyed that little.
Curious though how, like, the what?
I thought the body shop, like Pete said, I thought the body shop was a UK thing. I didn't think it was.
Yeah, that's funny. I thought that was a nice kind of funny moment. And then we get the lingerie bit.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Just shows their kind of innocence as well. Like, it's so far into them, this idea of like dressing sexy. That was good. And like the way Riley says, like, "Oh, I'm imagining you in this." Ellie gets a bit flustered and looks in the mirror and everything. That was good. The carousel scene, like you said, Peter, the way they look at each other here, I thought was really beautiful. Like, these kind of gazes, and anytime like Riley looks back at Ellie kind of darts away, and you can feel that kind of chemistry with the two of them. So Riley mentions, Ellie kind of is told at the beginning she has potential, like she could be an officer, and she's kind of assuming that of Riley, and the reason Riley left is because she was given sewage duty. I thought that was kind of more justified. Like, Ellie's kind of pissed at the beginning, but it kind of justifies it as well. Like, that's what they think of me. And just these facial expressions from Bella Ramsey here was just fantastic, and it's just a little charm with a little bit. How do you feel like, because we've had like a few relationships focused on in various episodes of the show, like, how do you feel like Riley and Ellie, like them against like a Bill and Frank, or Sam and Henry, Peter?
How do you mean, James?
Like where, like, if you were to, like, do you feel like this relationship is on par with like a Bill and Frank? Like, where would you put it in?
I think it would be. I don't think it was given the chance. Do you know what I mean? I think I think if we'd seen more of them over the future, then yeah, you could argue is this just an initial relationship, so it might peter out, but it certainly felt very loving. I thought they definitely had a connection.
Yeah.
And just
It felt genuine.
yeah, definitely. And here's the kind of carousel in the game as well.
I
Another kind
like-
of iconic. Let's go on.
I'm sorry. I like that they made them. They were acting like kids finally. You know, like they had
Yeah.
a normalcy
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
life. That's what I really liked about these scenes. And you can just see how much they cared about each other.
Yeah, 100%. I think you get like a tinge of this with Ellie and Sam, where they're kind of giggling together and they're being kids. So it's nice to have an episode just of that. I think that was really a fun thing to do.
It also makes me sad too, knowing that their lives, what it could have been their lives, but what their lives are now. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a sort of a running thing in The Last of Us is like happy moments that get cut short or you know, turn rotten. Another kind of iconic moment from the game is the photo booth bit. I thought seeing them so close together was really fun.
I was expecting, I don't know why, but going back again to Efren's point about a bit more action in the episode, I don't know why, but I was just expecting someone to get them when they were in there or come for them when they were in there. Do you know what I mean? Because it felt like the perfect time for a jump scare, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like like I said, like the sort of Ellie Joel things are the Ellie Riley stuff is the downtime in the DLC, and the action comes from the modern day stuff where Ellie's looking for supplies, like she wants the clickers and things. So I kind of knew there wasn't really going to be any action throughout this unless it cut back to present day. But so
I was on edge throughout most of it, especially when I got on the carousel. I was just expecting from that point every scene for something to just happen.
Yeah,
like it kind of had that tension always there in the background. I think
and that's what I've said about a few episodes. I think for me, Chris, you know, and I know every episode I say Walking Dead, but you know, I think The Walking Dead has got me on edge a little bit. So every time there's a dark corner or there's, like you say, going around the carousel, I'm expecting to see out the corner of your eye something moving toward, and it doesn't happen. You know, and I think I like that. I think I enjoy that kind of.
In this one, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed not knowing because I hadn't seen it previously in the DLC. I enjoyed that anticipation and not quite knowing once it was going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think a benefit of not being familiar with this source material. Like I wish I could experience all of this again. You know, I can. Yeah, exactly. Like I can imagine like being on edge for this whole episode almost. But very iconic kind of sequence in the game. You kind of select what kind of things you have in the background, and you can choose what pose you want to do and everything. So it's a really fun kind of bit. So I'm pretty sure Ellie still has this photograph. Like I think it's in when you're playing the modern sections in the game, you can check through her backpack and find stuff, and you find like this photograph. So I was a bit sad like they didn't bring that up in the kind of modern bit at the end or something. Maybe she looks at it.
They might yet, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see anyway. And then they had the arcade sequence. So like in the game it's not Mortal Kombat, it's
I forgot the name of the game.
The Turning is called.
That's it, yeah.
I think that was the original name for The Last of Us. Neil Druckmann wanted to do a comic book series before he got like approved to make The Last of Us, so it would have been originally been a comic book called The Turning.
I am going to say I like the arcade version in the game better than this episode.
This sequence particularly?
Yeah.
I understand that.
Through the game, I thought that was.
I absolutely agree with you, and I have slides on it, GP. But yeah, so in this they actually played the game together. And like I get it, like they're using Mortal Kombat because HBO owns more. Warner Brothers owns HBO, and Warner Brothers owns Mortal Kombat, so it's just easier to use it than the kind of parody version that they have in the game. But in the game,
recognizable, isn't it? Most people.
100%.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Neil Druckmann talked about like how Mortal Kombat's sort of an important game for history. Like it's what brought in the like video game racing board. Like the violence in games was a big topic at the time it came out as well. So that's like part of the reason they used it. But in the DLC, none of the machines are working. So some of them are on, but they're not like playing anything. And there's this really beautiful moment, and that Riley tells Ellie to close her eyes, and she like shows her the buttons, and she starts like describing what the game is, and she's like, you hit this button, you duck, you throw a punch, and like health bars come up on the screen and everything, and every like button combo you put in, the health bar starts going down. It's a really like amazing, touching scene, and I was really hoping they would find a way to translate this in the show. And it was a bit like, I think this show has, like, in terms of adapting things, done a phenomenal job. But this is a moment I'm really gutted like we didn't actually get a direct translation of. And I kind of get it, because there's an interactive element to this that you can't have in the show. But it's a bit sad. So there you go. You feel the action coming here, where you kind of pans down the hallway and you see the clicker, and like it just sort of reminded me, like, this ends, doesn't it? Like, it's kind of really really sad. Yes, we get the kind of fatality, and again they kind of give each other this little look, and you feel that kind of chemistry. Did you think this was going to come to a head at a point, or it might get cut short early, Efren?
I think it was going to come to a head, eventually. I had a question though. The military said they closed down this mall, correct?
Yeah.
But there was, why did they close it down exactly? I think they were just, it had nothing to do with the clickers, I don't believe, but there was only one in there.
So they expanded the quarantine. They hadn't hooked it up to electricity.
Okay.
And because more people are coming into the quarantine zone, they've expanded where the electric grid goes. So Riley explains, I don't know if this is in the show or the game, but she explains that they don't know that the mall is hooked up.
Oh.
And like Ellie thinks it's been kind of cordoned off, but it hasn't actually. So that's kind of why. Ellie kind of decides like, all right, enough is enough, and Riley's kind of let's keep going. I got you a gift, and she gets the pun book that she's had in the later episodes.
Yeah,
it's great. I am actually. Here we go. I actually do have some of the things, but what does the frustrated cannibal do? Threw up his hands. That was a great one.
Yeah, those are good.
This is a funny one, like one they just don't get as well, like the screenshots thing. Yes, was quite good. Were screenshots even a thing in 2003?
No.
Cool. When did mobile phones kind of start becoming very popular?
Well, these have been born though. Like in the show, the one have been born with that.
Yeah, you're right, Chris.
2003, I think we're still rocking Nokia 3310s then, Pete.
Yeah.
So no screenshots.
Playing Worm, yeah.
Playing Worm all day.
Yeah, I think I only got like I actually got internet in like 2003. It was terrible.
It was terrible internet back then.
But Ellie finds the kind of the bombs, and an interesting element of this is like Ellie, she's kind of slightly pro Fedra, and her plan is to go back and complete training and become an officer. So these are bombs that would be used on her.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a really kind of deep element of that that's sort of under the surface there. And
but it's the reality, isn't it? It's the reality of these kind of terrorist organizations and groups and things like that that can say that the bombs aren't made to hurt innocents, but they do. You know, collateral damage and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Ellie kind of storms off and goes to storm off, and Riley reveals that she's actually leaving. So this is the whole night is a goodbye kind of thing. And again, we get this kind of like tense kind of moment here of them, like she's like, she wants her to say it, but she just doesn't.
I kind of didn't get this bit, if I'm being honest, and I can't remember the actual words and stuff, but I'd kind of getting the impression that she was trying to convince her that the Fireflies were good, and that she was trying to get her to go with her and join them. And then all of a sudden it was this kind of switch to, actually, I'm going and you're not allowed to come, which threw us.
Well, I think more Riley's justifying her point of view.
Yeah.
She's just having like a political debate, but she says here that Marlene said you can't come. So keep in mind that Marlene knows Ellie. She knew her mother. She mentions in the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
So she's familiar with Ellie. So it's not just like this is a random girl. She's keeping Ellie safe by not letting her come with her.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, and the little kind of kick of the bucket and everything, that was great when she goes. So she has like a change of heart. She turns around. When you heard the screaming, I assume did you all think it was Riley genuinely getting attacked?
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good fake out though in the
Yeah.
Halloween store. That was great. Yeah, and we got this really nice kind of conversation. So you leave me and come back, and now you're leaving again, and everything. But Riley's sort of backstory is interesting. She's mentioned a few times that she has she had a family at some point, and that's kind of part of her reasoning for going. But it also kind of, Ellie grew up. Ellie mentions like that these kind of military camps are for orphans, so it's you can assume that Riley only came in after her parents had died, and you don't know, possibly Fedra even had something to do with that as well. But yeah, this whole kind of I'll miss you thing was very sweet at that as well. So the Halloween store moment, like this bit where they put the masks on, these are directly out of the game. But the Halloween store is actually at the beginning of the mall kind of journey.
I was going to say it was earlier, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's right at the beginning, and they're kind of putting the masks on. You can explore the Halloween store, and there's a little Nathan Drake costume on one of the walls, which I really loved. I was hoping that they'd have that in the background of the shop, but they didn't. So they've kind of amalgamated this scene with the kind of music store scene at the end. But you have this kind of she plugs the Walkman in, and what's the song that's playing again? It's I Got You, Babe.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Remember?
I Got You, Babe. And
it wasn't the Sonny and Cher one, it's the one before that. I've got to say.
Asha James, I think, is her name.
Yeah.
Version anyway. But you see like Ellie's kind of cassettes earlier, and so there's an Etta James one. They kind of get up and start dancing. And it's pulled like directly out of the game as well. Like they get up on the counter. Even the sesh is like almost identical. It's insane how close they got it. Just before we move into the end portion, there's a couple of moments that I'm kind of a bit bummed that they didn't include in this.
Yeah, I was a bit gutted they didn't put the water fight in.
Yeah, there's a bit where they're kind of spraying each other with water guns, and like the thing I sort of get it as well, because these are like taking the combat mechanics from the game and having like a childlike version of it. So like you're shooting these water guns like you're shooting real guns as Joel, but just spraying each other with water. And my favorite line probably in the entire like Left Behind first game is Ellie and Riley are throwing bricks at. They have like a game who can smash all the windows on the car at the first, and Ellie wins and she goes, "Brick fucking master!" And like, if I ever meet Ashley Johnson, I'm getting her to write that on as a quote. And I'm really like, I don't sell it as well as she does in the game, obviously, but I'm really bummed that line's not in there. Like I thought that had me absolutely keeled over laughing the first time I heard it. So those are kind of the two main ones, but again, they're sort of gameplay things, so I get that they're the ones that need to go first.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ellie kind of stops dancing. She takes the mask off and she asks her don't go. And Storm. Riley says okay, and similar to the game, kind of plays out exactly the same. Where Riley rips off her Firefly tag and throws it away, and they kiss. So all of you kind of felt the tension. This wasn't really a big surprise to anybody at this point, was it?
Yeah, I thought it was perfectly done.
Yeah. You get that kind of the clues as you go. But this was groundbreaking at the time in the game. Like this game came out in 2013, and we'd had 6 or so months of The Last of Us coming out, so it's not really a thing people have thought about, like Ellie being gay potentially. And gay representation wasn't really a thing in games at the time. Like there was, anytime you had a gay character, it was usually like kind of stereotypical, like that's their whole identity, is that they're gay, like this gay Tony in the Grand Theft Auto games. And then lesbian characters particularly, it's just hypersexualized usually. So this really was like earth shattering at the time, and to portray like a gay love story so realistically and so tenderly and kind of maturely as well was really unusual. And keep in mind that like the Bill Frank stuff wasn't in the game at the time, so this was kind of the main kind of romance of The Last of Us stuff at that point. And then just to see how happy Ellie's face is was so nice as well. How do you feel like Bella Ramsey's performance in this? Like, we see a very different side to Ellie in this episode. Was that something you really enjoyed, Efren?
Yes, I did. most of the time she's a hard ass and just swearing, just being just a punk basically. But this showed a little bit of her softer side, like her origins, which I said I did enjoy, but it her youth, especially the second picture on the right hand side, she just looks so happy and innocent there.
Yeah.
Before all the crap starts coming down on their lives,
Yeah.
Chris, how do you feel? Do you think Bella's took it up as a notch in this episode?
Yeah, so I loved it. It gave a lot more depth to like what she's like now as well, with not wanting like everyone leaving her and not wanting to get close to people and things. I thought it was good to see why she's like that. Obviously she was on her own, kind of in the camp, just had a friend, and obviously she fell in love with her and then lost her. So it was good to see that. I think it was she's just fantastic, and she'd be honest with her, she's just really fantastic.
GP, how do you feel like they translated this from the game?
Yeah, I think they did really well. It's more or less kept in line with the DLC, so it's true to the source. But it's just fun seeing Ellie having fun and being a kid. And I think that's what sells it. And Bella Ramsey did an amazing job. So
there's just a genuineness to it, I think.
Definitely,
And like I think child characters, often there's a risk of them becoming annoying. Like I think up until 5 years ago, there wasn't really any likable child characters at all, particularly. So it's really nice to see this. But yeah, of course, it's cut short, unfortunately, as things usually are, and happy things usually are in the last one.
Damn it, Walking Dead.
Yeah, this fucking show, man! Like I just can't with it.
It's funny how our last just watched episode 3 the other day, and she said it was like so sad. I was all get used to that feeling because this show likes to stomp on your heart and stomp on it a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. But even at that, I think like Bill and Frank is probably the happier. Like their kind of ending is the happiest.
They got a life. They got
exactly
the life
like
together,
any character's got.
Exactly.
Yeah, and certainly more. Like it's so tragic in the game where like Frank hated Bill and kills himself and everything. Like so I think they kind of treated it up a little bit. But yeah, one thing I don't think we really talk about the show, but the makeup. Like these infected are just it's insane. Like how good Clickers look, how good the Ploder looked, and this one I think is on par as well. Like how detailed it is and realistic it is. I really love, and I know like you're saying you were hoping for a bit more action in this, but I think this every like scuffle we've gotten with like an infected has like a kind of a danger to it. Like you really feel invested and there's a tension to it. Did any of you guys kind of feel the same way with this bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things I really like about this show is that it sounds ridiculous to say it, but the fighting feels almost realistic. You haven't got kind of like you slap the infected and they fly across the room, and it feels like it's a proper threat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it looks like they get hurt when they're fighting, all of them.
Yeah.
Which is
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought this was a great scene. Very, very well performed.
Yeah. Efren, did this?
Sorry.
Go on, GB.
I was just going to say the thing about this show is like you don't need like a horde of infected to feel a threat. Yeah. You just need the one.
So do you know what? Absolutely, Pete. Because I've been watching again the last season of Walking Dead. I've finally decided to start watching that again, and I have to say the last season is superb. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Well, but you're right. The zombies are almost a minimal threat because they're just so slow and cumbersome. You're literally walking away from them. Just unless there's 100 of them around you. Exactly. Whereas with this, it's a bit like. Is it 28 Days Later? The zombies are like charging at you and things like that. Yeah. And I like that element. It feels more of a threat.
Yeah, I think like in a lot of kind of now I don't like calling these zombies because I don't think they are zombies, and I know that's something that the show gets hooked on. Like people involved with the show don't like calling them zombies. It's actually banned on the set, referring to the zombies. But I think like in a lot of kind of zombie stuff, like zombies feel a bit weak. Like they're weakened by the state that they're in, whereas it's not something you feel in this. Like I think it's a full-grown, full-strength person. If anything, they may be a little bit stronger because they're more durable. Efren, did this kind of satisfy your? I know you said you wanted more action, but did this action scene kind of do it for you?
It did, but then again, at the same time, I'm wondering. They've had decades, at least 10 years since all this started, you think they would have better weaponry to kill these creatures by now? Because most of the time guns don't hurt them, bullets don't, so you think by now they would have came up with a more of a foolproof plan and how to kill these creatures, but it just seems like they don't.
Yeah. Well, I think it's mentioned in other episodes that like some places are able to produce bullets, but I don't think there's much like
No.
scientific progress going on in the world right now. It's so disjointed,
The thing is, I'll just jump back to the game. It doesn't really take a hell of a lot of ammo to bring one of these down, though.
No, I think the regular infected, it's one headshot will do it. Clickers,
Yeah, one headshot in the down.
Yeah. There is a type of infected, and I don't know if they've really appeared. Like they don't really behave the way they do in the game in this, if they do. But it's sort of like a midway point between regular infected and clickers. Like they're called stock, and they like hide. They hide and they jump out at you, like, and then they run away and hide again. And I was kind of hoping we at some point would get a stalker sequence. But I don't know if they'll get to it. Maybe they'll save it for next season.
James, do you know how much the creators of the game, how much input they have on the TV show? Are they just,
more? He's a co-creator, co-writer, co-director.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He wrote this episode. He is as heavily involved in this as I've ever seen someone associated with source material being involved. So it's himself and Craig Mason, who's the Chernobyl writer, I think, and producer, both in charge of this. So that's the reason I think there's an authenticity and there's like an understanding of these characters, is because the guy who created most of them is, in the writer's room and in the director's chair.
Did you also know if that's when they created this game, you think they were thinking, like in the future, this is going to be a TV show also? Or did they just wanted to make the video game and that was it?
I think Naughty Dog is the company that made the developer of the game, and they're very much like, we focus on what we're making. But a movie was announced pretty much a few months after this came out and just never got off the ground. So I don't think they ever thought that far ahead, TV show. But in retrospect, it's so nice that they've made a TV show, because even how many episodes we get in this, and some of them are like an hour and a half long, it does sometimes feel like you could spend more time on this stuff if you wanted to. So imagine trying to get through it in 2 hours. You just butcher it.
I'm glad they didn't make a movie now. I prefer
absolutely.
Honestly, I think they should scrap every movie they have in development and just do shows. Really, they should do. I think we'll see. There's a few movies that have been announced. I'll talk about it when we get to the finale. What's next for like PlayStation produced things, but I think just scrap those movies. I think HBO will probably want another one as well. Like it's. I thought they would go scoop up God of War, but we saw Amazon get that. But just like the whole kind of Ellie, holy shit! Like, and she's like laughing about it, like, oh, we made it, and the sequence plays out a bit differently in the game. There's a bit more of a chase, and there's more infected. There's a few of them that come after them. That's a bit more brutal as well. Like Ellie just like slashes on the Ellie, takes one of their heads off. But that kind of look of shock on Ellie's face and seeing the bite and Riley's face. Were you expecting Riley to go out on this show?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
We've learned, haven't we, Efren? We know how this show works. It seemed happy, so
Yeah, I mean, it was entirely possible she just left, like she just got away. Because Ellie says died or left me, but you saw this coming anyway. Did you think you would see like the origin of? Did you expect Ellie would get bitten as well, like even before the infected shows up?
I thought we'd see. I was kind of expecting to see how it ended, if you know what I mean. How she realized she was immune, and I was expecting that to have to end up kind of outliving her and kill her in some way.
Yeah. It's funny because like I think there was sort of is it the Mandela effect where everybody says something and you think it's true then? Because I was convinced you see like Riley's dead body in the game at some point, and I went back and checked and you don't. Even though I played the main game a few times, but Left Behind I've only played like twice. And the last time was a couple of years ago. But I was convinced that we did see that, and I thought they might like show Marlene finding them as well, and particularly like you mentioned earlier, that reference to I've had to hurt people, but there'd be a payoff for people on that.
I would
Maybe they'll come back to it.
I would have liked to have seen after Ellie gets bit and she realizes she's immune. What does she do after that? Does she go back to where she was staying at, and does she tell them? Because you think they would have some scientists there maybe to find a cure. But I would like to have seen the other character die somehow too. Not just assume
I
it.
kind of in my head played it out that what you call her, the Firefly lady,
Marlene.
Marlene comes and finds them in the place.
Yeah,
and
that's
finds
what
the
my
other
thought was.
Yeah,
eventually.
That's what I was
Fairly
thinking.
certain that's what
How
happened.
far between this and the first episode?
Yeah.
Because
3 weeks. I think they say
Yeah.
it's 3 weeks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's quite possible that they start making their way back to the Fireflies together to survive or something, and then obviously Riley dies, and then Marlene finds.
Yeah, because keep in mind, Riley is producing bombs, so there's fireflies coming and collecting things here constantly. So yeah, I would imagine that's.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible we might do at some point, but the game doesn't, so we'll see anyway. But the show has added quite a lot of stuff, and flashbacks has been a constant thing, so it's possible. But yeah, this plays out the Ellie your arm, and she looks down and holds her hand up and everything, so it's identical in the game. And then we come back to the modern day, and I think it's in the game as well, but I think the show really brings it home, how Riley's speech has influenced Ellie in this moment. Ellie's about to leave Joel, and she remembers back to this and decides to kind of start looking for a way to help him. And in the game, it's kind of similarly done with her she finds the needle and thread a bit earlier and starts sewing Joel up. I love the stark contrast of their reactions to this as well.
Yeah.
The way
losing his shit.
Yeah, and I think Riley, she mentions her parents have died. She's more familiar with death, so she's just kind of a bit more somber about it. Whereas Ellie, this is probably the first really tragic thing that's ever happened to Ellie. And that's a great little line from Riley as well. There's more stuff over there. You can bring this. This is funny as well. So we get this little speech. There's two options. We could kill ourselves. And in retrospect, it's incredibly lucky that they didn't, because Ellie got to continue living.
But I guess she's that carries that guilt with her, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think
she survivor's guilt. She lived in a potential, partner didn't.
Yeah, I think it's been brought up in previous episodes as well, the possibility of more immune people, people who get bit, probably don't succumb, more of them kill themselves or get killed. That there might be more of them walking around and we just don't know. So it's incredibly lucky the circumstances that Ellie was in at this point. But Ellie has this really beautiful kind of moment where she says, everybody goes out sooner or later, whether it's a minute or a day, we don't give up. And this is a really kind of iconic line in the game as well, the let's be all poetic and just go out together. Are you crying? Did anyone cry actually during this episode?
Just you, James, I think.
Yeah.
I
sorry, man.
I think I've cried in every episode actually. I think so.
Don't get me wrong, it was highly emotional. It was nice, but I don't think I shedded a tear on this one.
Yeah.
I think
he's not.
Riley, I think the girl who plays Riley, I think this section here, I think this was her best acting.
Yeah,
the face and her emotions that she conveyed was just blew me away. Yeah, really good.
Tears streaming down her face and everything was really.
Just she gave up, hadn't she? She just knew what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think this show will sweep awards when they come around. Best supporting actor. I think this best guest actress is an award, and I would say she'll be a strong contender for that.
James, you should take pictures of yourself when you're crying and put them up as screenshots. The scenes.
Son of a bitch, Ephraim! Why didn't you tell me to do this before that?
I would watch that.
James crying.
That's a short waiting to happen. Each episode, your different levels of misery and tears would be great.
800,000 views, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. But yeah, just a beautiful moment, and pulled things almost word for word out of the game as well. Even Ellie's kind of hissy fit. Hissy fit's maybe a bit harsh, but your kind of reaction to being bitten. And the speech that Riley gives actually plays over the modern day section where Ellie kind of ties up Joel to the horse and she's going to go out with him, and this whole like we don't give up moment. And the whole look, what's option 3? And she just like says, I'm sorry. It's going to be beautiful scene, their last scene together of holding each other. Yeah, really powerful stuff, I think, in this. And then we see Ellie kind of comes back and tries to find Joel, and she finds the sewing kit, sews him up. And I believe that is episode. That's the last shot, isn't it? Yeah, that is episode 7.
I will say though, when the music kicks in when she's sewing him up, I thought that was really good.
Yeah. One thing actually I didn't even mention throughout this, but music's sort of a big thing, particularly in the second game, and there's a few songs that tie into that, like Aha's Take on Me.
Yeah.
She had the tape of her heart, didn't she? I noticed that.
Yeah. So Take on Me plays when they're on the escalator, and she's going up and down. So my favorite scene in the game involved in the second game has Take on Me is associated with that moment. So I'm really hoping we get that. And then when she's running in the military, like doing the rounds, there's a song by Pearl Jam playing, and another Pearl Jam song is like a big element of.
They've had a couple of Depeche Mode as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been music is a big element of this series, and I'm happy to see the show work that in as well. Cool. So, guys, any final thoughts on episode 7? Start with GP.
Bring on episode 8. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, no, episode 7 was really good. They've done a brilliant job of translating it over from the game. So yeah, quite happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris.
Yeah, again, it's I didn't see the source material. I didn't play the DLC, so for me it was all new. I did enjoy it for what it was. I said I was expecting a bit more action, but I'm not disappointed with what we got. If that makes sense. I think the acting and the story and the character building was just really good as usual. I did want a bit more of kind of Ellie surviving on her own a bit and going out hunting and things for supplies and whatnot, but we'll probably get that next episode, I imagine. But again, like GP said, bring it on. Don't want to
bring it on.
Efren, will you be back next week now that Joel's alive?
Yeah. So I think the acting was top notch. Again, Pedro Pascal, without having much to do in this episode, he gives a lot. You could just the emotions on his face, But I'm always squeamish when they do, like when they have a cut open and then they sew a person there. I'm just like, I'm in like this, going like this, just the pain of it all. 2 things I wish they would have in this show at the end of. I've seen other shows where like the director comes on and he kind of gives a brief synopsis of what the show was about, the finer points. And I wish they would have something like The Talking Dead afterwards, just talking about it. I think
there's Inside the Episode, which is like a 7-8 minute thing. Game of Thrones used to do that as well. Where they just like talk about why they did this and how they did this and all that. And then there is a Last of Us podcast, like an official one from HBO. With Troy Baker, who voices Joel in the game, and he's appearing next episode. He hosts it, and they have the actors and the directors come on and talk about it as well. So if you're looking for that, it's available.
Can you put the links on there afterwards too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
No worries. Peter, any final thoughts on?
Yeah, again, a strong episode. I agree with everything everybody else has said. In terms of it being a slower burn of an episode, but having great character moments. I'm of an age now where I like a lot of action in my TV, so I would have liked a bit more action, I guess. But still, a very strong episode, another good episode. And I've said it before, I completely agree with everyone again. Pedro he's phenomenal. And Bella Ramsey is, that young person is going to have jobs for life now, because I think she's just shown herself as a top-notch actor in this. So yeah, superb.
Yeah. For me, like I said earlier, one of my favorites. I think it's amazing how this show in so little time is able to get you so invested in a character or 2 characters' relationships with each other. And as like an adaptation, I think just taking that DLC chapter, I think this is almost flawless.
I
really
know you
enjoyed the
said
last
these
one.
people are probably going to get, when award season comes around, but at the same time, I'm not sure who, picks the winners, but they hold back. Because on The Walking Dead, I thought some of them got an awards, but they never did. I think because of this type of genre, it's going to be difficult for them to push through that.
Well, this is sort of like prestige television. So like Game of Thrones usually would every year sweep awards, and this is sort of in that same basket, really, isn't it? So I really hope so. I think certainly we'll see like Nick Offerman getting an award for episode 3.
Needs it, yeah.
I would hope Pedro or Bella as well.
Don't start crying if they don't get an award, okay? I don't want to see you cry.
And if you do, film it. If you do cry,
I'm an emotional guy, man. Like I can't let my girlfriend see me cry. I told her we watch The Last of Us together. You'll see me cry, and she's like, "No, I don't want to watch The Last of Us. It's too scary."
Modern man, James. Modern man.
Yeah, absolutely. In touch with my emotional side.
So,
so that's episode 7. We will be back next week on Thursday instead of Wednesday, just for next week to talk about episode 8. So this is the only screen grab I could find that wasn't spoilery. So I would steer clear maybe of some of the promotional stuff for this if you have managed to so far. Very excited about this one. It's really a chapter I think could have been done in more than one episode. So I'm curious.
It's going to be
pacing wise. It'll be.
Yeah. I was just going to say I wonder how they're going to pace this because it goes on for quite a while on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's some big stuff in this that I think a lot of you will really love this one. So that is episode 8. Peter, what have you got coming up on your channel?
Yeah, so next Monday we're doing our Geek Art Attack show at 8 o'clock, and we've got a full house. I've got 10 people on the stream, so it's going to be a busy one. But we've got Alex Cormack, who is a phenomenal artist. He's done Sync, he's doing Road of Bones, Crimson Cage, loads of good stuff. So a proper bona fide comic book artist is going to be coming on, and we're going to humiliate him by showing how superb our art is in comparison.
I was just going to say, he's come on to run rings around all these.
So it's going to be real good fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And obviously the theme is horror. So James, you're coming up with some great horror-themed ideas for Efren and James will be comparing that for and keeping the chat going. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, great show. Really happy to take part, and I recommend everybody check that one out. And up on your channel now, is it?
I think this is either Saturday or Sunday. I think Sunday. This is myself and Efren doing our top 5 commissions part 2. So we did a show a while ago where we looked at all the commissions, and we got a number of requests to redo it. So we filmed this a couple of weeks ago. Some great artwork on display. So that goes out on Sunday. And if I can, James, I just chucked in a final one, which I put in the slides. This is a bit of a last minute thing. So we're going to be doing this on Friday night. This is my wife is away, so my wife's in London, so myself and the guys have decided to do a late night stream. So at 1 minute to midnight on Friday we're going to start a stream which is purely going to be geeky chat, comic books, touching on movies, all kinds of stuff. I'd love as many people on as possible, so guys, if you want to join, Efren, if you fancy jumping on with me, mate, it'll be midnight UK time. And we're just gonna shoot the breeze for a little bit and have a bit of a natter.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm so sorry, Peter. I just remembered that I was supposed to send you a picture of me scowling. I forgot to.
I think you look stunning there, G. You look stunning.
That genuinely is one of the best
job.
photographs of me that I have. So yeah, if any way to show that, I'll take it. Yeah, GP, you actually sent me a thumbnail this time.
I did. I remember. Yeah, so it's volume 1. Review volume 1 of Philadelphia's already out. This Friday is my review of Mighty Marvel Masterpiece Daredevil volume 1. And a little quick, only about 2 to 3 minutes, because who needs an hour to talk about it?
Very good. All right. Chris?
Yeah, 2 weeks in the making. I went to comic hunting. As I've mentioned before, there's nowhere to collect in Middlesbrough. There's no good comic shops.
Is that the Dal Night?
In Darlington, yeah. I went to the Dal Night.
Yeah.
Pete recommended it. It's your stomping ground, isn't it, GP?
It is.
Yeah, so I went there. About 3 hours there, I think. I think they were sick of the But yeah, it was a good day out. Had a little rummage through the comic boxes, and it's just like a little hunting video for what I
You
picked
picked up some nice books as well. I watched the video today,
Yeah,
Chris.
some really good books actually. Yeah.
I love these kind of comic hunting and seeing like if you find anything videos. So look forward to checking it
Honestly,
out.
that shop is stacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get
You
some
need a
really
good-
brilliant deals.
Yeah, I mean, I did say to you, Chris, you need a good few hours if you want to try and get through all the long boxes.
Well, I blinked and it was like 3 hours, and I didn't touch
Yeah.
anything. I just went from A through all the way to Z and just what I could basically. And then there was like, oh, there's more out the back, and I was like,
Imagine doing all that and you don't find anything you want.
Yeah.
But, that's like, and Efren, I don't have any thumbnails for you, but do you have anything on your channel you want to talk about?
I just dropped a short today. I did a quick review of episode 1 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. Trying to get it to a minute or less is very hard, so you know. So, and I did get some comic books yesterday. I found somebody close to my house. I bought some comic books from. I'm going to be putting it up there. And Peter and I are going to be doing our monthly advanced orders, which I always enjoy. You know.
Awesome. Yeah. So the link for everybody's channels will be in the description after the show. And that is it. Thank you, everybody, whether you're watching this live or on the rewind, for checking out this episode of Firefly Chats. And remember, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light, endure and survive. And we'll see you next time.